Fall's a great time of year. With the season comes the newest additions and changes in Chrysler vehicles, as well as MasterTech's new model highlights. Hello and welcome to MasterTech. Today we'll be discussing the latest changes in Chrysler automobiles, as well as what to look for in the near future. First, we'll look at changes that affect all Chrysler onboard diagnostic systems. Then we'll discuss the new Powertrain Control Module, SBEC III, used on Chrysler passenger vehicles. After that, we'll talk about a vehicle-mounted transmitter that, as one of its functions, can act as a garage door opener, eliminating the need for a handheld transmitter, followed by the latest information about specific Chrysler models. The Viper, Jeeps, and Dodge trucks also have a new Powertrain Control Module, the JTEC, that we'll take a look at, followed by the latest information about Viper, Jeeps, and Dodge truck models. We have a lot to cover, so let's get started. As you know, emissions have been a major concern of automotive manufacturers for a while now. Like other automakers, Chrysler must meet the stricter guidelines and regulations which have been instituted to ensure cleaner running vehicles. For 1996, all vehicles are equipped with an enhanced onboard diagnostic system called OBD-2, which is used to monitor emissions-related items. Previously, OBD-2 had only been used on a few models. The Powertrain Control Module, or PCM, supports OBD-2. It monitors the catalyst efficiency, fuel system, misfire, oxygen sensor and oxygen sensor heater, evaporative purge system, exhaust gas recirculation system, and the secondary air injection system. The PCM can now also receive emissions-related information from the transmission and any other components that are related to emissions. If a problem is found, the PCM stores a diagnostic trouble code, or DTC, in its memory, which can then be read with the DRBIII scan tool. Some of the new trouble codes available are related to evaporative system leaks, evaporative system obstructions, EGR system failures, and catalytic converter efficiency failures. For a complete list of trouble codes and their description, refer to the appropriate 1996 service manual. Also, for more information about OBD-2, refer to the 1994 January MasterTech program and see our upcoming program on it. As a result of OBD-2, you'll also notice a change in the Malfunction Indicator Lamp, or MIL, operation, which can be seen as the Check Engine Lamp or Service Engine Soon lamp. The MIL can indicate a wider variety of problems due to the PCM's increased scrutiny of emissions-related items. When the PCM stores an emissions-related diagnostic trouble code, the MIL will light to indicate that emission standards are not being met. One crucial component of the emissions control system is, of course, the catalytic converter. Normal operation over a long period of time, or engine misfire over a short period, can cause a catalyst to deteriorate. As the catalyst deteriorates, its oxygen storage capacity and efficiency are reduced. As part of OBD-2, Chrysler uses a catalyst monitor to check the efficiency of the catalytic converter. The catalyst monitor consists of two heated oxygen sensors, one upstream and one downstream of the catalytic converter. In a properly functioning catalytic converter, the upstream O2 sensor should switch fairly rapidly, while the downstream O2 sensor switches at a much lower rate. If the switch rates of the upstream and downstream O2 sensors are too close, deterioration of the catalyst may have occurred, and the MIL will illuminate. Another result of OBD-2 is that a leak detection pump, or LDP, is part of some of the emission systems on Cirrus, Stratus, the new Breeze, the new Sebring convertible, and some minivans. The PCM causes the evaporative system to seal, and air is pumped into it. By monitoring the pump shutoff time, the PCM determines whether the system has a leak. If a leak is discovered, the PCM will store a trouble code, and the MIL will illuminate. Finally, the fuel gauge sending unit on passenger cars and minivans has been revised to be more accurate in providing OBD-2 information. The fuel level is now used as an input for misfire and for the evaporative system monitors. Well, that's it for our OBD-2 overview. Next, we'll discuss changes to the Powertrain Control Module and fuel system on passenger cars. All of the Chrysler passenger cars and minivans now use the PCM called the Single Board Engine Controller 3, or SBEC III. This new PCM has two 40-way connectors instead of one 60-way connector. With the introduction of SBEC III, Chrysler vehicles control fuel delivery differently to provide more accurate fuel metering and lower emissions. This affects vehicles previously equipped with OBD-2 and those getting it for the first time. To implement this new strategy, the PCM uses the upstream and downstream O2 sensors mentioned earlier. Based on input from the downstream O2 sensor, the PCM adjusts the rich lean switch point connected with the upstream O2 sensor, so the catalyst can operate at greater efficiency. Next, we're going to discuss a new feature, a universal transmitter available on a few 1996 Chrysler vehicles. But first, let's try a review question. For emissions purposes, Chrysler uses a monitor to check the efficiency of A, the fuel gauge sending unit, B, the catalytic converter, C, the battery temperature sensor, or D, none of the above. The correct answer is B. As part of OBD-2, Chrysler uses a monitor to check the efficiency of the catalytic converter. The catalyst monitor consists of two heated oxygen sensors, one upstream and one downstream of the catalytic converter. A new feature to look for in the 1996 Grand Cherokee, LHS, Talon, Cirrus, Avenger, Sebring, and Sebring convertible is the built-in universal transmitter. The universal transmitter can be programmed to open an electronic security gate and a garage door, so the driver never has to leave the vehicle. What's more, with the aftermarket HomeLink universal lighting package, the universal transmitter can also be programmed to turn on lights inside and outside of a home. With this system, you can replace up to 3 radio frequency transmitters. The transmitter is located on the driver's side sun visor and works off the vehicle's electrical system. Before operating the universal transmitter, the existing transmitter signal must be programmed into its non-volatile memory. Keep in mind that the process of programming a universal transmitter will open and close a garage door or motorized gate, so be sure the area is clear of people first. Also, for safety reasons, this system should only be used with a garage door opener that has a stop feature and a reverse feature. With the engine off, erase the factory test codes from the universal transmitter by pressing and holding the 2 outside buttons until the red light begins to flash. Choose a button on the universal transmitter. With the handheld transmitter 1 inch from the universal transmitter, push the buttons of both transmitters and hold. The red light on the universal transmitter will begin to flash slowly. When the red light flashes rapidly, release both buttons. This procedure can be repeated with 2 additional transmitters and the 2 remaining buttons on the universal transmitter. If for any reason the transmitter frequencies need to be erased, do this by pressing and holding the 2 outside buttons until the red light begins to flash. Next, we'll discuss the latest changes to individual Chrysler models and some more new features to look for. For 1996, LH vehicles have seen a number of changes. For example, some of the LH vehicles meet the requirements for the Transitional Low Emissions Vehicle category, or TLEV. TLEV modifications include dual catalysts located in the engine compartment, each having an upstream and a downstream O2 sensor. And the TLEV engine uses a new manifold absolute pressure sensor, or MAP sensor. Look for some component location changes as well. For example, the intake air temperature sensor was moved from the rear of the intake manifold plenum to the side. The evaporative purge solenoid was moved from the passenger side inner fender panel to the side of the air cleaner housing. The 42LE transaxle has undergone some changes, beginning with the addition of a temperature sensor to provide accurate transaxle temperature information to the TCM. But the biggest change on the 42LE automatic transaxle on the Eagle Vision TSI is a new feature called Auto Stick. Auto Stick is a driver-optional transaxle control feature. The transaxle can easily be switched from automatic to manual shifting by the driver. Auto Stick uses a T-shaped shift gate. When in the manual mode, the lever can be pushed to the right for an upshift or to the left for downshift. When in fourth gear, the TCM will automatically shift the transaxle from fourth to third when the vehicle speed drops below 15 miles per hour, and from third to second when vehicle speed drops below 10 miles per hour. Also, Auto Stick will default to automatic upshift at around 6,300 RPM in the event the driver misses a shift. With the use of the transaxle temperature sensor, Auto Stick includes an overheating protection function. With the Auto Stick feature, there are a few hardware changes you'll notice, along with the new shift gate and wiring. The instrument cluster now includes a gear display that illuminates when the transaxle is in the manual mode, indicating which gear it is in. The TCM has been upgraded too, and not just for Auto Stick. This new third-generation TCM, the ETAX III, incorporates OBD-2 diagnostic requirements. If a problem is detected, which may be related to emissions, the TCM sends an input to the PCM. The PCM then illuminates the MIL, warning the driver of a potential emissions-related fault. The TCM also provides interactive speed control, a feature which actually started with 1995 TCMs and has been carried over for 1996. Interactive speed control is described in the 1995 July MasterTech News. It's a good idea to familiarize yourself with this system, since customers may not be aware of its operating characteristics. The speed control relay has been deleted from the junction block. The PCM takes over the relay's function. Last October, we introduced you to the Tevis Mark IV-G anti-lock brake system on LH vehicles without traction control. The news for 1996 is that the Tevis Mark IV-G anti-lock brake system is now also available on vehicles with traction control. Modifications have been made to the brake lines and tubes to allow for the Mark IV-G system. Also, the proportioning valves have been moved from the hydraulic control unit to the rear of the brake line at the brake tube connection. The hydraulic control unit no longer has a low fluid level switch. And the vacuum brake booster no longer has a pedal travel sensor. The tires have been redesigned to reduce tire tread noise and vehicle lead. Also, the hub and rotor are match-mounted to help reduce noise, vibration, and harshness. When removing, be sure to note the position of the rotor to the hub to ensure correct installation. Finally, on the New Yorker and the LHS, the radio antenna has been integrated into the rear window. Well, I've given you a lot of information to remember. Before we go on, let's have another review question. On vehicles equipped with Auto Stick, when driving in fourth gear in the manual mode and vehicle speed drops below 15 miles per hour, the transmission will automatically shift from fourth to third with input from the A, BCM, B, TCM, C, PCM, or D, none of the above. The correct answer is B. When in fourth gear, the TCM will automatically shift the transaxle from fourth to third when vehicle speed drops below 15 miles per hour. The Neon, Cirrus, Stratus, and Talon have undergone a few changes that you should be aware of during service. Let's start with the Neon. First of all, the proportioning valves on the Neon hydraulic control unit have been recalibrated. If replacing them, be sure to check for the correct part number. Also, the diagnostics for the ABX IV system have been enhanced and are similar to those on the Cirrus and Stratus. You should refer to the 1996 Neon Service Manual when diagnosing the brake system. You may recall that in last year's new model highlights, we discussed a change to the Neon steering coupler. Well, that steering coupler has been modified. The old coupler used two release washers which would allow it to separate into two pieces if necessary in a collision. The new steering coupler has been designed to compress in a frontal collision. A few new options are available on the 1996 Neon. The sedan and coupe Highline and Sport models are all now available with front power windows. And the Highline and Sport models also offer a power sunroof as an option. Another option on the Highline and Sport models is a remote keyless entry system. The fuel tank on the Neon is now made of plastic and has an increased capacity from 11 to 12.5 gallons and uses a new fuel pump module. A special fitting for draining the fuel has been added to the top of the fuel tank at the back. Turning to Cirrus, Stratus, and Breeze, all 41TE transaxles combine the park neutral switch and the Prindle switch into one switch, called the transmission range sensor. Also incorporated into the transmission range sensor is a temperature sensor, which monitors the temperature of the transmission fluid. As a result of these changes, the transmission case and valve body have been modified. The auto stick feature we described earlier on the Eagle Vision TSI is also available on the 2.5-liter Stratus ES with the 41TE automatic transaxle. A new option available on the Cirrus, Stratus, and Breeze is a power sunroof. Well, we've covered a lot of information so far. Before we move on, how about another review question? The transmission range sensor on the Cirrus, Stratus, and Breeze incorporates the A, park neutral switch, B, the Prindle switch, C, transmission temperature sensor, or D, all of the above. The correct answer is D. The park neutral switch, Prindle switch, and transmission temperature sensor are combined into one switch, now called the transmission range sensor. Before we talk about Viper, Jeep vehicles, and Dodge trucks, we should discuss a change to the PCM that affects them all. The most obvious change to the PCM, also called the Jeep and Truck Engine Controller, or JTEC, is external. The old PCM had one 60-way connector. The new PCM has three 32-way connectors for a total of 96 pins. The PCM now uses a 5-volt power supply to operate the cam, crank, map sensor, throttle position sensor, transmission governor pressure, and vehicle speed sensor, and has 22 adaptive memory cells. Also, the PCM now provides a duty cycle EVAP purge and speed control that operates through resistive multiplexed switches. It continues to provide transmission control with expanded duties on some models. Control of a returnless fuel delivery system has also been added to its responsibilities on some models. As on passenger cars, the PCM supports OBD-2 diagnostics. If a problem is found, the PCM will store an emissions-related trouble code in its memory and cause the MIL to illuminate. And speaking of OBD-2, the instrument cluster on Cherokee and Dodge trucks has a generator warning lamp, and the instrument cluster in the Jeep Grand Cherokee has a check gauges lamp, both of which are used for diagnostics. If the PCM stores a charging system-related trouble code, this will illuminate instead of the MIL. The PCM no longer has an internal temperature sensor for the battery. The temperature sensor, now located directly on the battery, sends input to the PCM, which can then determine the battery temperature. With this input, the PCM is able to control the battery charging rate. The new PCM is capable of enhanced DRBIII tests, which include a fuel injector kill test, a generator test, an idle air control wiggle test, a speed control switch test, and a battery temperature sensor test. On all engines, with the exception of some of the heavy-duty 5.9 liters on the Ram pickup, the exhaust gas recirculation system is no longer used. Also, 4-liter engines equipped with the 42RE transmission no longer use a TCM. The PCM takes over functions previously performed by the TCM. Now that you've seen the new PCM, let's take a look at some of the changes in Viper and Dodge trucks. In the past, the Viper used two PCMs, the SBECIII and the Viper Ignition Controller, or VIC. With its added memory and features, the new PCM now replaces the two previously needed. There have been numerous chassis changes, including a new frame. With improved serviceability in mind, the front and rear suspension on the Viper has been totally redesigned with all new components. And the control arms are now cast aluminum, requiring specially coated fasteners and new tools. Modifications have also been made to the rear shock absorber assemblies and mounting angles. Viper's exhaust system now uses a rear exit design instead of a side exit. Another item on Viper that you should be aware of is the new fuel pump module. This returnless double trace design is able to provide accurate OBD-2 information. There is a new procedure for removing it, so before you remove it, refer to the 1996 Viper Service Manual. Also, a hood switch has been added to the vehicle theft alarm system. A change that affects all Jeeps and Dodge trucks is a revision to the fuel gauge sending unit to be more accurate in providing OBD-2 information. Turning to Ram pickup, the 2500 and 3500 series are both available with a rear suspension camper package, which includes a stabilizer bar and overload springs. Also, keep in mind that the frame on the Ram pickup has a special coating on it. Those built in St. Louis have an E-coat, while all others have a wax coat. Specially coated fasteners are required for both, so when servicing, be sure you're using the correct fastener with the correct torque. Finally, a lighted vanity mirror with an adjustable dimmer has been added to the driver's side sun visor. The Dodge Dakota has undergone changes in a number of areas. For instance, the 2.5-liter pushrod sequential multi-point fuel injection engine replaces the 2.5-liter used previously. This is the same engine used in the Cherokee and Wrangler and is only available with a 5-speed manual transmission. As you would expect, the addition of this new 2.5-liter engine results in some component changes that you should be aware of. First, the manifold absolute pressure sensor, or MAP sensor, has been relocated from the dash panel near the rear of the engine cylinder head cover to the side of the throttle body. A new power steering pump and hoses compatible with the new 2.5-liter have been added. Also, the engine mounts have been redesigned to reduce noise, vibration, and harshness. A new steering wheel with speed control switches has been added. You may notice that it's similar to the steering wheel on the full-size Ram pickup. A Class 3 hitch package is available on Dakotas equipped with a 5.2-liter Magnum V8. The Class 3 hitch package includes the hitch receiver and the 7-wire harness. There have been a few changes in transmissions, too. On Dakota and Ram pickup, the 42RH transmission used with a 3.9-liter V6 engine is being replaced by the 42RE. Also on Dakota and Ram pickup, the 46RH transmission on the 5.2-liter V8 is being replaced with the 46RE. The 42RE and 46RE transmissions are 4-speed automatics that use electronic components to produce governor pressure for shift control, as opposed to the mechanical governor used on the 42RH and 46RH transmissions. The NV231 transfer case has an extensionless housing. Modifications were made to lengthen the prop shaft. The tailgate on the Dakota has a new release that no longer requires a cinch bolt. Now to remove the tailgate, with the Chimsel wiring harness disconnected, lower the tailgate about 45 degrees. Disconnect both cables and remove. Well, so far we've discussed the Viper, Ram pickup, and Dakota. Before we continue, let's try another review question to check your knowledge. True or false? With input from the battery temperature sensor, the PCM controls the battery charging rate. This statement is true. The temperature sensor, located directly on the battery, is used to monitor the temperature of the battery. With this input, the PCM is able to control the battery charging rate. The Ram van and wagon have a few changes in 1996 worth noting. For example, a new power distribution center has been added. Like the power distribution center used in other models, it now contains relays as well as fuses. The secure stud on the spare tire bracket has been revised to help eliminate buzz, squeak, and rattle. The driver's seat belt has a pretensioner that works with the driver's airbag system. In a head-on collision, the pretensioner will tighten the seat belt to help restrain the driver. The airbag control module activates the seat belt pretensioner at the same time it deploys the driver's airbag. Keep in mind that the seat belt pretensioner cannot be repaired. If it is damaged or activated along with airbag deployment, it must be replaced. For replacement of the seat belt pretensioner, refer to Group 23 of the 1996 Ram Van and Wagon Service Manual. On the Grand Cherokee, engines have seen some minor changes. For example, they now have stamped steel valve covers. Also, casting changes have been made to the block to reduce NVH. The map sensor on the 4-liter has been moved from the dash panel near the rear of the engine cylinder head cover to the side of the throttle body. Engine mounts on all Grand Cherokees were recalibrated to have larger rubber surfaces, providing improved engine-to-chassis isolation. Vehicles equipped with the 4-liter engine have a new exhaust system with a retuned muffler and a larger tailpipe. In contrast to engines, transmissions and driveline components have undergone extensive changes. The 46RH transmission, previously used on the 5.2-liter engine, has been replaced with a 44RE transmission, which is a 4-speed automatic transmission that uses electronic components to produce governor pressure for shift control. The 44RE was derived from the 42RE design, available on the 4-liter, with a few revisions. The bell housing required a modification, and some of the internal hardware was enhanced to handle the 5.2-liter engine's increased torque and horsepower. On both Grand Cherokee transmissions, the PCM now controls governor pressure, shifts into and out of overdrive, and torque converter clutch engagement. The automatic shift linkage on the Grand Cherokee now has a brake pedal interlock system. With this safety feature, the brake pedal must be fully depressed in order for the transmission to shift from park. A redesigned transfer case, the NVG 249 Quadra-Track, is available as an option with the 4-liter and standard with the 5.2-liter. It's an on-demand transfer case that replaces the all-the-time unit used on previous models and has been designed to reduce torque steer and understeer and to improve traction through curves. It supplies power to the rear axle 100% of the time through a solid mechanical connection, resulting in reduced driveline friction. The front axle receives power through the viscous coupling only when speed differential occurs between axles. The Quadra-Track also has a low lock feature. When extra traction is required, the shift system will override the viscous coupling and provide a mechanical lock in the low range position. The single cardan U-joint used previously on some front drive shafts has been updated to a constant velocity, or CV, joint on all Grand Cherokees. Also, a new rear axle is available on the Grand Cherokee. The new Dana 44 is a semi-floating rear axle with an aluminum center section. As a word of caution, never position a jack under the center section, as damage may occur. The shims used to adjust preload and backlash have been relocated from under the bearing cone to outside the cup against the housing. New tools are required for servicing the Dana 44 rear axle and will be sent to all Jeep dealerships. Another feature new to the Grand Cherokee is speed proportional steering. This provides full steering assistance when the vehicle is stationary or moving slowly. Look for more information about speed proportional steering in the upcoming December Master Tech. In the area of restraint systems, the front shoulder belts are height adjustable, and front driver and passenger side airbags are now standard on all Grand Cherokees. The electrical system on the 1996 Grand Cherokee has seen extensive changes. So many, in fact, that we've devoted 2 complete bonus programs to this subject. Look for Grand Cherokee Electrical 1 to be released this month, and Grand Cherokee Electrical 2 will be out in December. Some of the subjects we'll be covering in these programs include power distribution and the revised Power Distribution Center, a new junction block that replaces the fuse block and the relay center, and some wiring changes as well. Also, we'll have information on the new modules available, including a BCM, left and right door modules, an instrument cluster module, and a memory seat module. And finally, we'll look at the greatly expanded multiplexing system with 11 modules on the bus and the use of resistive multiplexing. Some new features that will be covered include heated seats, remote radio switches, a revised remote keyless entry system, and a memory system with memory features for seats, mirrors, and radio settings. Some of the changes to Cherokee are those we've seen on other vehicles. On the Cherokee 2.5-liter and 4-liter engines, the map sensor has been relocated from the dash panel near the rear of the engine cylinder head cover to the side of the throttle body. Also, the 2.5-liter and 4-liter engines now have the power steering pump mounted directly on them, and the tension adjuster is on a bracket below the power steering pump. And the power distribution center has been revised. Like the Dakota, the NV231 transfer case on the Cherokee has an extensionless housing, which results in a lengthened prop shaft. Now let's try one last review question before we say goodbye. The driver's seat belt pre-tensioner on the Ram van and wagon is activated by the A. Body control module, B. Memory seat module, C. Airbag control module, or D. Powertrain control module. The correct answer is C. The airbag control module activates the seat belt pre-tensioner at the same time it deploys the driver's airbag. Well, that just about covers the highlights for 1996. We hope this information will be helpful to you in the future. Be sure to join us next month when we'll be discussing the latest onboard diagnostic information. We'll see you then.